Hello, hello, and welcome to the Explain It podcast with Ingryd Hernandez. With me today is this awesome dude over here, Matthew Potter, and I feel a little weird, like not the best angle. You guys are getting all my second chin today. Thank you. Let me just like this. Hey, Matthew, how's it going? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So what people don't know, see behind me, there's a sub two. We're actually in front of like 200 people sitting, learning about all things creative, how to work together, cash, all the things investors. Hey, Sub 2 Drew, look at Sub 2 Drew in the comments. Let's go. His favorite podcast of the week. That's right. This is a different setup because we're pivoting, right? What's that big P word we all have to do? We got to pivot. And I was like, we're going through this environment where short sales are coming to tick back up. And I'm sure lots of people are going to have questions around that, especially this group of 200 mostly newer investors. And there's just so much about short sales that I think is important for us all to understand and know. So Matthew, of course, I mean, you've only done what, like one or two short sales, is that right?
Just a couple. I got a little rust, I'm just doing a couple.
Yeah. And by couple, he really means 20,000 short sales. Okay. A couple of 10,000s. Oh, getting all the clapping up in here. Everybody's clapping. Mr. King of short sales right here. So Matthew, how do we know each other? How did you get started in this short sale game?
So I've known Ingryd since high school. Like I've literally known Ingryd for almost like 60% of my life, like, which is insane to think about. So how I got started, I accidentally got started in short sales. And what happened was I had a land development internship in 2007. And literally an hour after I graduated, I got a call from the company that I was being hired on at that said, the market is in turmoil. We won't be doing any land development in the near future. We're revoking your internship. Best of luck. We hope that everything works out for you. And I was like, dude, that sucks. Okay, I got to figure out a way to pay my bills. And I got a call from a gal that I went to high school with, college. And she said, hey, I got a job at this place. You're really good at arguing with people and proving a point. So I think this would be the perfect job for you. And I went in and interviewed on a Thursday. I started the next Tuesday. And within a month, I had 5 short sales approved and in closing. And from there, the rest of it just kind of took off. My wife ended up getting hired on like 6 to 8 months later. She wasn't my wife at the time. She was just my, just somebody that happened.
Little work romance.
Look, it is what it is. But then her and I broke off along with one of our processors. We started our own business and it exploded from there. We started doing them all over the country, all 50 states. To this day, we're still, right now, I think we have active short sales in like 38 of the 50 states. So, I mean, we're still extremely busy. We're starting to see it pick up more and more. So that's the story right there. I'm excited to be here to be able to answer any questions and let everybody know what's going on in the short sale world.
Wow, that's wild. And then you and I are both real estate agents here in the state of Arizona. And so you guys know, we have our own little agent forum. And a lot of poop talking happens in there, like legit. And it's so interesting because the perspective of our community is that this isn't really happening. Like, what? Short sales, that was a thing of the past. Do you feel like that's what you're seeing too from other agents in our community?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ostrich syndrome that's occurring with the agency community. Agents, I mean, they're trained to go dance on TikTok and say it's a great time to buy and sell. Like, let's be honest, that's pretty much what most agents do. The reality is, right now, the market as a whole is pretty stagnant. It's not really moving. So it's one of those things where the smart people that are in the business that are doing it day in and day out, I'm able to have high level conversations with, where I'm able to say, hey, yeah, look, the market is down. The market is moving in a negative direction. It is, and granted, it might only be 3% in that respected area, but 3%, if you bought with a VA loan 6 months ago, 3%, you're underwater. Like, it's that simple. And all it takes is one life event for it to occur. So the agent forum, it makes me laugh because 2 years ago, I was actually told that I'm nothing more than a dumb hammer that's just trying to make everything into a short sale. That's what a designated broker here in Arizona said to me. And now the funny thing is, every time that somebody asks for a short sale in Arizona in that forum, I mean, Ingrid, you've seen it. I get tagged, and so does Nicole, 50 times. And this guy never comments in there. He never says anything to me or Nicole anymore. Like, he just refuses to communicate with us.
Yeah, it's wild. Okay, so you and I are in Sub 2, the greatest, community of all time. And part of what we come across all the time is wholesalers who may find these opportunities. So I want to get into the meat and potatoes this time, because I know you and I we could talk until the cows come home, right? That's a thing. That's a phrase in the English language. Okay, something like that. And part of what a lot of folks want to understand is how they can better help sellers. And today we had this whole, Zoom today about like the hierarchy of helping sellers and the way that I process that, right? Especially distressed sellers. That's who I was talking about. Like, hey guys, the best way we can help people to start is MLS. And then from MLS, or maybe even doing a loan mod, is then going to a cash deal. If a cash deal doesn't work out, then we go to creative. If creative doesn't work out, then we go to short sales. And then a lot of folks were like, but I'm a wholesaler. I'm not licensed. I can't make money on that. And I'm like, yeah, but you're here to help sellers. And that is just what happens. So one of the ways that I've worked with Matthew in the past is we do it the right way. Matthew lists the property and I run my numbers. And if what my numbers shake out to be is the offer that I submit. And sometimes, because properties that are in short sale are seen as, I don't know, like pariahs a little bit, right? Or pain in the ass, if you will.
Yes, absolutely. It's a PITA all day.
Yeah. So investors won't even try. They won't even try. So for those of you who are willing to wait, it is an opportunity for you to still get in the game. But know that when you are referring these opportunities, you do have to be licensed. And I saw that somebody was asking that question. Ari Davis asking, in Maryland, you can't be a wholesaler doing short sales. You have to be an agent and attorney. Is that not the case in all states? No, that's the case in all states. So do you want to elaborate a little bit about that, Matthew? Because I do think here is more about a moral compass and why you're doing this business in the first place. But would love your perspective.
Correct. So a short sale is a very, very niche part of the overall umbrella that is buying and selling real estate. And it is a highly regulated niche as well. And it is something, if you don't do it right, you're going to end up in front of a judge. And that's not an exaggeration or anything like that. There's plenty of cases you can go study regarding that. So Ingrid, like you had mentioned, we have a very specific set of guidelines that we have to follow with it, where it's okay. For example, if it's an FHA-backed mortgage, FHA, I immediately know it has to go on the market. It has to be on the market 15 days. And then at 15 days, anybody is free to submit an offer. Let me rephrase that. Anybody can submit an offer during that 15 days. No offers can be accepted until day 16, though. So like the seller... Okay. The seller can't take an offer on that prior to that. So it's one of those things, like, you have to do that because it's a HUD guideline. It's required.
What's HUD for, Matthew?
I'm sorry.
What's a HUD guideline?
So HUD is the insurer of all FHA mortgages. So that's housing and urban development. And they have what's called the HUD handbook. And in there, it has everything that has to be followed on what's known as a PFS sale, which is the pre-foreclosure sale program. So there's a 15-day marketing period. Any offers can be submitted during that time. Best offer with best net and best return and best probability of closing can be accepted at that point. And that's one of the other things where it gets super funky with short sales sometimes. There might be an offer that's $375 for a house, but they need 6% concessions. Say it's a retail buyer. Say there's an offer at $370 and it's a cash buyer. Maybe it's a REIT, or maybe it's somebody that's just looking for a buy and hold and they don't need any concession. The better number there is clearly the $370. It puts more money back into the bank's pocket. When you're doing a short sale or you're working as a short sale as a buyer, you have to realize you're not necessarily working you are, but you aren't. You have to do what's in the bank's best interest, not even necessarily the seller, because the bank is the one that's approving everything. Now, the bank will go ahead and give the seller effectively a pass, and they'll wipe the slate clean. Sometimes they'll give them moving money, things like that. But back to your original point with wholesalers, how do you do this? Yes, this is one of those things. You've gone through 7 other options prior to this. This is kind of your last ditch effort before the seller goes to foreclosure. And it genuinely comes down to, I'm trying to help them avoid foreclosure. And if you're licensed, obviously there's an opportunity to list the property and work with us. If it's in Arizona, we run them from start to finish and make it easy for everybody and pay a referral fee. That's the way that we're structured. But as just a wholesaler, not licensed, you're doing what's in the best interest of the seller. That's what it comes down to.
And then let's think about it this way too, especially if you're trying to run a business, right? Imagine you just help somebody in some of the worst times that they're going through, and you were able to help them avoid the worst case scenario, which would have been a foreclosure, right? And right after this, Matthew, if we can talk through the differences of if a seller goes through a short sale and what happens to them versus a foreclosure scenario for the most part. But you just help them. Do you think somebody who feels relieved of all this baggage that you were able to help them with, do you think they're going to kind of just keep quiet into themselves? Or do you think that if somebody else maybe has real estate to sell and has a scenario that you could be involved with, that they might bring it up to you, right? So you still need to think about this from a business standpoint, right? So now you've referred it to Matthew. Matthew takes care of them. You check in with them, and then you do a post-close. If you don't have a post-close process as a part of your business go-to-market approach, you're leaving so much opportunity behind. We all say this, right, Matthew? It's oh yeah, most of my business comes from referral. When does that referral happen? Post-close. So if you're not doing a post-close process, you are literally leaving money on the table. You should be getting reviews. Matthew's so good at this. He's got ridiculous. Now he had to go from Zillow to Google or some kind of goofy thing. But yeah, and he can talk about that if he'd like. But that is where you're going to see a longer term successful business if you think about the post-close. So Matthew, what is the difference between a seller going through foreclosure versus a seller going through short sale?
So both of them are, I always get the question of how is this going to impact my credit? How is this going to impact my ability to buy down the line? And those are usually the 2 big things that people are looking at. And they'll also say, well, I heard that I'll owe taxes with short sales. So let's go ahead and break this all down so that we actually have it. So with a short sale, the way that the bank reports it to the credit bureau is they report it as settled for less than legally owed. So that's just what it's going to show. That's what their standard moniker is. There's slight variations to it, but that's their standard that they do. Now, That being said, from there, what happens is the tax question. Everybody says, "Oh my God, what about taxes?" Here's the fun thing. Whether you do a loan mod, a forbearance, a deed in lieu, a short sale, a foreclosure, it doesn't matter. Anytime the bank is writing off or they're moving money from one side to the other, it creates a taxable event. You're getting a 1099 no matter what. And that's one of the big things when you're talking to a seller and they bring that up. It's super easy to neutralize it. And the reason why is because it's going to happen if you go through foreclosure and do nothing. And a short sale is not going to cost you anything to try. So we might as well at least give it a shot. Under a worst case, we're in the same boat that we're in. The big thing is, and sometimes it's hard for people to see this when they're in a, it's hard to see the light when you're buried in a hole. It always is. Nobody can see that 2 or 3 years down the line, life will be better. When life is crap, nobody sees that. So with a short sale, if it's a VA, you can buy again in 2 years. If it's a FHA loan, you can buy again in 3 years, 3 to 4 years, depending on circumstance. With a conventional, with a short sale, it's generally 4 years. You're able to buy again. It's 3 to 4 years. Now on a foreclosure, it's the same for VA. So that's kind of good for vets. It is. The issue that you run into is VA will notoriously sell your house for much lower once it goes bank owned than what you probably would have got on a short sale. So now you're trying to mitigate any kind of loss on your entitlement. That's really what you're trying to do with a short sale as a vet. With FHA, you can buy again in 3 to 4 as well. With conventional, though, this is where it gets tricky. It's 4 to 7 years before you can buy again. Imagine waiting 7 years to be able to buy a house again. That's a long time. For perspective's sake, that'd be 2032. We'll already be electing the next president after the next president when you'd be able to get a home. That's your perspective right there. So there's your.
No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
there's your differences right there between short sale and foreclosure. Those are your primary differences. The other thing is that I personally found is it seems like the credit come up afterwards is much quicker with a short sale. And also when you're looking to get new credit for maybe a car or a credit card or apply for an apartment, they'll ask you, have you voluntarily or involuntarily given a property back to a bank? Obviously, that's a deed in lieu or that's a foreclosure. It doesn't say, did you complete a short sale? So those are two, little nuances that are right there.
Yeah, you can help avoid. So then it actually puts you in a better financial position in the future, which is so awesome. Yeah. What is one of the most common objectives? And maybe you kind of covered it with the tax thing. But when you're, sitting in front of a seller and you're making sure they understand their options, like what is a common objection that you're like, I wish they understood this even before I went into their living room to have this conversation?
I think the top 3 biggest ones is price, because everybody always has an objection to price in real estate. It's the number one objection that exists. And it's super simple to solve that. The price is going to be determined by the bank. It has nothing to do with the seller. It has nothing to do with me as the agent. It has nothing to do with the buyer. The seller or the bank is going to be the one that's going to create that. The second thing is, what is this going to cost me? Because let's be honest, everybody cares what their cost is. And it's very simple. The bank pays for all the costs in the process. So it's actually not going to cost you anything except maybe an hour's worth of your time filling out the packet, which, I don't know, that's a pretty fair trade of time right there. It is. The third thing that I really wish that they knew and understood right out of the gate, but it's always a pleasant part of the conversation when I have it with them, is time. This affords them time in a lot of instances of being able to stay in the property and maybe get in a marginally better spot to be able to exit the property when the short sale is approved, or if it's not successful, when a foreclosure actually occurs. The other thing is, and again, this is only on owner-occupied properties, not ones that are vacant or anything like that. But if it's owner-occupied, more often than not, the bank's going to pay them some money to actually move. They're going to give them anywhere between $1,500 to about $7,500, sometimes $10,000 to move. Like, that's a good return for someone that's staring down the barrel of a foreclosure. Like, hey, by the way, your debt is settled. Here's $3,000 to move. Have a great day. That's a great return for somebody that's in a rather crummy position.
Exactly. And like I was mentioning to the group here earlier, is that I went through a short sale.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's so many things that go through your head when you go through a short sale, where it's like, oh my gosh, well, to your point, it's a temporary situation, but will I be able to buy a house in the future? Could I become sick? Like, I want to be an investor when I grow up, but here I've just mucked myself up by doing a short sale, right? I was in those shoes, and it's not just the house that goes, it's your credit. It's all your credit. Oh, by the way, all your credit cards also come due. By the way, it's not just your house, because your credit cards are always looking at where your score is, and if it tanks like that, they want you to pay off all their loans, because obviously you haven't been able to manage your mortgage. So, and again, to Matthew's point, like buying a car, there's very specific questions that you have to answer when you're going to go get a new car, and how that limits you. However, and that's why it's important for you to like understand these stories, because you should be able to reorient these stories for the sellers you're helping. Knowing these things, like from myself and from Matthew, be able to have this conversation in front of them. This is what should help you get a deal done, because you have folks like ourselves who like, hey, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Actually, we can get you some moving money. Hey, you can become an investor when you grow up. There, like, this does not have to be your last hurrah, So, Matthew, what is something you wish investors would understand about the short sale process that you think gets missed quite a bit?
I think the big thing is the lack of understanding that it's really not as bad as people probably think that it is. There's a very negative connotation around a short sale. I've talked to investors that are like, I will never have a seller do a short sale. I'm like, okay, so you'd rather they go to foreclosure? Well, no, we'll find a different way. And Ingryd, you know this, you've been in the business a long time. It doesn't matter how hard you try. You can't put a round peg in a square hole. If it doesn't fit, like I've seen people that are like, hey, here's a creative deal with a $200,000 entry fee with a 9.5% interest rate on a 800 square foot house in Las Vegas. And it's absurd. You and I both know it's never going to work. You're not going to pad split it into, 40 square foot rooms. It just doesn't work. So there comes a certain point, going back to what we were originally talking about. You have to look at what's best for the seller, not what's best for your pocketbook at that moment. And sometimes it's a super hard delineation to make, where it's like, okay, I have to understand I'm not going to get it on this one. But you know what? I have somebody that I put them in a position to potentially receive some help and some success. And I put another person out there that's going to be a raging fan of mine. And you get enough fans of yours, you're going to do really, really well with your business operations. You had mentioned my reviews, and I only do my reviews on obviously my own personal deals. I don't do it on anything I process out of state. I don't do any of that. I think on Zillow, I have like 393 reviews, and there's one that is 1 star. And it was literally a seller that was pissed off that they had to pay $300 out of their HOA, or out of their relocation incentive to their HOA. And they thought that I was a horrible guy for that. And you know what? I'll take that 1 star review as a badge of honor. I will. I started, I think it was about 6 months ago, I started doing Google reviews, because Zillow, I won't get on a tirade about Zillow, but Google it's me, it's my brand, it's me personally, it's not on someone else's platform. So I was like, fine, I'll do that. I think right now I sit at like 54 reviews as well. So I take each one of those reviews though, And it really does help build your business. It does. People will contact me and they'll be like, hey, I found you on Google. I saw your reviews. I think you're the guy that can help me. And literally, I have a closing that's occurring in 2 weeks. They found me on Google. It's gone perfectly smooth for them. It's a couple of veterans that are going to avoid foreclosure. It's a great spot.
That's right. Amazing. And thank you, Angela Burns, for being such a raving fan of Mr. Matthew Potter. Thanks for that comment. Michael Koenig wants to know, sorry if I say your last name wrong, do people have to be behind on their mortgage to qualify for a short sale?
So, like any question in real estate, the answer is it depends. So, for example, an FHA-backed mortgage, you have to be 31 days delinquent. Again, that's in the HUD handbook. It'll tell you have to be 31 days delinquent. If you have a VA loan, though, and maybe you had PCS orders or you're on active duty, you do not have to be delinquent. You're okay to proceed without a delinquency status. The other major investors that are out there, Fannie, Freddie, USDA, and then your private, generally they'll want to see you behind. And the reason why is as long as they're getting their payment every month, they have no motivation to help you. They really don't. But if you have an extenuating circumstance, example, say that your spouse died and you were paid 6 months worth of expenses via maybe like a life insurance. Let's just say that was the case. You can apply under what's known as eminent default. You're not behind now, but in the near future you will be because of your circumstance. They'll review you under that. And if you get an acceptable offer and they agree to it, they'll sign off and you can go through without being behind. But I'll be honest with you, the bulk of people that end up in a short sale position, they're usually anywhere between 1 month to like 5 years behind. I just did one in New York where the lady was 17 years behind. She lived 17 years rent-free in the house.
And I bet you she still wanted you to find out she could get some moving money.
She wanted moving money, and honestly, she didn't even want it approved. She was like, I don't even want it approved. And I was like, no, Shelly, it's time to go. Like, you need to go because they're going to foreclose on you.
Speaking of which, you just said New York. So do you do short sales in all 50 states?
Yes, we do them in all 50 states. The only place I haven't done one that I guess is the United States is Guam. It's the only place I haven't done one. I don't plan on doing one, but yes, we handle them in all 50 states. If there is one in Guam, I'm happy to do it there too.
Yeah. And because people ended up reaching out to me so much because, your network, your network is your net worth. Well, yep. Because, like Matthew said, he's known me for 60% of his life. People naturally come to me and I want to stay organized for Mr. Matthew. So I actually created a quick little domain where you can fill in. Please let us know if you're licensed so that we can properly compensate you if you are licensed. But that's where you can actually bring in your leads. Matthew will get them and then he'll start working on them and communicate with you. We'll ask you for your information so that we can, do the warm transfer between the seller and Matthew so that he can help. But that's the easiest, fastest way, I think, because I think I have like 120 text messages on my phone right now that I haven't responded to. So I'm just saying, I know that Matthew is against automation. Just kidding. We were talking about somebody tell him that quick story because this is ridiculous.
Are you talking about the way that I work?
No, no, but that was funny. Yeah. Tell him about your music taste. No.
Oh, no, we're not doing that right now.
Yeah. No. So Matthew posted a picture of one of these automations that just sends offers for you. And right. His offer was $0.
It was.
It was hilarious.
0.00. And I was like, nah, you got to do better. And the best part on it was, this is what made me laugh. They were still putting down $1,000 of earnest money. So I was like, wait a minute. So you're getting that back at close? Is that what we're going for there?
Yeah. So make sure your integrators make sense with what they're selling. And every time I read the name Dale, I think of Dale, but his name is Dale. So Dale, I think he's in one of our communities, was like, Matthew was really helpful. answering him and his wife's questions, wealth of knowledge, of course. And I think Matthew is one of those leaders in our communities that, again, what generation are we? We're millennials. We don't gatekeep. So we have a running joke in that right now that millennials don't gatekeep. But anyway, we're the older millennials.
That's right. I'm like almost Gen X. I'm almost there.
Oh, wait, don't say that. I don't claim it. I'm
just saying, like, I'm on the cusp. I am on the cusp.
Yeah. Right on. And so, Matthew, what do you have any like facts and figures for us in terms of how we've kind of done this wave between when short sales actually became a thing back, and they were a thing before 2008, right? That's just like when they like shot up.
Correct.
And like, where are we now?
Yeah. So like back in short sales, the history of a short sale goes all the way back to kind of the savings and loan debacle of like 1989. So, I mean, that's kind of like when you first really heard about short sales. There were short sales in the past, even prior to that, but it was just kind of known as like a compromise sale. And the bank would say, fine, we'll take that. Short sales became a thing during 89. It happened again in the dot-com bubble of 99 through like 01, kind of that area. And then 07 was the one that brought it to everybody's, doorstep. I think at that point in time, I was literally reading an article about this earlier today. At that point in time, 50% of all transactions were short sales or REOs, like no exceptions, 50%. And then by the time 2011 hit, which was the actual bottom of the market, it was something like 85% of all transactions were short sales or REOs. So like when you think about that, where we are today is not even near that. But here's the thing. Back in 2022, it was 0.001% of transactions were distressed, right? Like that's almost, there's none. I think I did all of them that year. Like, honestly, like I truly do. Right now, we're at about 3% of all transactions are distressed in some format, whether it's pre-foreclosure, whether it's short sale, whether it's HUD-owned, REO, whatever. So we're starting to trend back up on that. One of the things that, and I've been very outspoken about this, and Ingryd, as you know, like I'm not one that keeps things in my head very well, especially if I've researched it and like I know.
Yeah, your head loves to drop everything. I mean, look,
it'll come right out. Like it's going to come out whether people like it or not. I think right now the government over the last 3 years particularly has done a really great job at kicking the can down the road. And one of the things that I keep an eye on is FHA loans, VA loans, new build trends. And also, I follow the money because the money will always tell me.
Wait, Matthew, wait. You sound way professional. What do you mean? What do you mean you keep an eye out? Like, what are you, running a business?
Something like that. So,
okay. Just checking.
So here's the thing that I'm going to tell you. On almost every short sale that I do that is an FHA loan, right? Which is the most popular loan that's out there. I think that's 70% of the loans that are out there right now, right? Every single one of them I do, they have at least one partial claim on them. Now, for those that don't know what a partial claim is they've already fallen behind on their mortgage once before. A partial claim is effectively like a deferment or a forbearance, and they just strap it on as a second lien that's non-interest bearing, and it just sits there, which in theory sounds great because, cool, you got right back on track. Whatever your life event was, you're good, not a problem. The issue is when you're buying a property with only 3.5% down, or maybe a DPA loan, so maybe nothing down, right?
What's a DPA loan?
Down payment assistance. So they pay your down payment. So now you're coming in with nothing out of your pocket. When you're strapping $15,000 worth of missed mortgage payments on the back end, the property has to appreciate to probably about 110% of what you bought it for you to be in a break-even position on selling it on the market, right? Which is going to be probably your highest return is on the market. Generally.
Why 110%, Matthew?
Well, because you didn't put anything down, so you got 100% financing that's right there. you have your arrears that were put on the back end. So I'm assuming that right there is probably about 5% right there. And then you have to think about closing costs. Even if you go with flat fee broker that takes $50, you still are probably paying a buyer's closing costs, your closing costs when you're on the market because of what the market is right now.
So 10% is still really relatively conservative. You're probably looking more like 112 to 115%.
I would say 115 is probably where you need to be given market conditions. 110 is just for the purposes of somebody might squeak by at that. So you sit there and look at that. Once that happens, there's not a lot of options that are going to occur, especially because, let's be honest, over the last 3 years, interest rates have stayed progressively between 6.5% to 7.5%. In most instances there, it's not going to make sense to do like a creative finance deal. It's just not, because it's the same damn market rate that's out there. Like it's literally the same rate as if you just went and got the FHA loan. So It doesn't make a lot of sense to go sit there and clean up this back end partial claim that's there. And okay, we'll put that 15 down and bring it a little bit more in line. It just doesn't add up. So I watch that a lot. Like I said, you've heard me say it time and time again. I'll say it on record. The VA loan is one of the worst loans that's out there. I do not believe that it actually benefits our veterans. Sitting there giving them 100% financing with a VA funding fee on top of it and putting them into a negative equity position before they've ever even stepped foot inside that house is a horrible, horrible thing to do. It is.
So, and I'll translate to this real world, anecdotal situation. The majority of my portfolio that's creative is VA.
Yep.
Now, I will say this, though. Here's the little caveat and where you can get super scientific. 83% of VA loans were originated in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
So because of that, it also kind of skews sort of the data a little bit, right? Because now you have a bigger pool of VA loans in general. But I would say the one that I just bought that I talked to you guys about, the 3.25 in El Mirage, literally a VA loan. So I'm with you, Matthew. I think a more comprehensive and generous thing would be just give them the down payment. Just give them the down payment, and then that builds in equity. I feel like that would be more appropriate.
It really, like I said, it's one of those things. I've looked at it enough, and I have a large enough sample size now with VA loans to understand how problematic they truly are in a market that is flat or a market with no appreciation. I mean, here's a perfect example of one I just did. I'm not going to get off on a tangent, but I got to share this with the class.
Oh, I love your stories. Please tangent away.
So I just closed this one last Monday. This is a VA loan. He bought it as a new build in October of 2022. He paid $638,000 for this house, right? It closed as a short sale for $390,000. So you're talking about $250K just came right off the top. And this is the worst part about it. It's in a new build area. And dude, I will hammer new builds too. New build communities, that's where a lot of my business comes from, because people are sold on no down payment, low down payment. Move here, we'll give you blinds. Here's your introductory rate of 3.99. It'll be 7.99 next year, but that's okay. You can date the rate and marry the house and all that bullshit. So anyways, that builder just finished building out in there at 375 to 400. Because of that, we closed the one on, it's on Daniel Drive in Maricopa. I kid you not, I had an agent call me afterwards and said, you actually closed a short sale on Daniel Drive. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, I have 2 more to send you right now. She's like, I'm not dealing with this. You can have them. She's like, just pay me a referral fee. You clearly can get it done. And I was like, okay, cool. Thanks. So I ended up literally getting 2 more right on the same street. They're 3 doors down and 6 doors down respectively from the one that we just closed. But that shows you how quick a market can change and how bad and detrimental it can actually be. You're talking $250,000 just happened with that VA loan. Like it just got cooked. It's gone. Like,
yeah. That's crazy. That's so crazy. Like just the difference and it kind of also tells you what lowering the rate, which I actually, I understand it's so much easier to judge like after the fact. But if historically we've had unprecedented interest rate lowering, what goes down must come up, or the other way around, whatever. If you want to look at pricing, what goes up that fast must come down. And I think that's what we're seeing. We're seeing hold on. I know I can say this word. The juxtaposition.
Yes.
Of where we were and where we are now. So it's wild. Matthew Potter's last name is Potter, like Harry Potter. That's the guy.
It's literally my kid's favorite movie too. How great is that?
Okay, somebody wrote, VA funding fees are waiverable with disability rating. 10% disability ? Okay,
Correct.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, in some instances, like if the vet is disabled, the VA funding fee is waived. Here's the thing. Not every veteran is disabled, so we'll just start with that. The second thing is, even if that's done, you have somebody walking in at 100% LTV. 100% LTV. Back in the day, Ingryd, in 07, 08, 09, 100% financing was what led to all the problems that occurred. I had 100% financing on my first house. My first interest rate was 7.5 on my first mortgage. My second mortgage, which was like $32,000 at the time, was 13.5% interest. But I did it. And you want to know why I did it? Because I was told by the loan officer, oh, you'll just refinance later. It's not a big deal. And you know what happened? I did not get to refinance later. It was a big deal.
Yeah. Did you end up short selling too?
I didn't. So what ended up happening was I was in
what happened was,
I was in a review, and it was just when they came out with HARP. Do you remember HARP? There was HARP, there was HAMP, and then there was HAFA. HARP was for refinance, HAMP was for loan mods, HAFA was for short sales. They reached out to me. My loan was with, I want to say Quicken at the time. They reached out to me and said, you don't have to do shit. We will send you a DocuSign. We'll refinance you 30 years fixed, 4% interest, no questions. And I was like, deal, done. And my payment went from, I think it was $2,200 a month total was what I owed on my house at the time, down to $950 a month.
What? Did you keep that house?
Oh yeah, it's my favorite rental. I still have it to this day.
Nice. That's right, guys. It's a marathon. Stop selling your good shit.
Oh no, keep all the good stuff. Keep it all.
Yeah, keep the good stuff. I do want to go back to the point that you mentioned about higher interest rates. So what I told the group earlier, and for the benefit of everybody who's watching this, if your interest rate, if you're getting into creative financing and your interest rate starts with a 5 or more, that's a red flag that it might not work for creative, like literally. And I love this because people have no idea about this until they actually start learning the math. When you have an FHA loan, and let's say your FHA loan is 4.5 interest rate, what comes with FHA loans?
MIP, baby.
MIP. That's right. Mortgage insurance premium. Who does that benefit?
The bank.
The bank. So the really tough part about FHAs is that they can look like good deals, but then they're not. And then one of the things that Matthew kind of illustrated to you with his scenario where he had a 7.5, I think you said, and a 13 point something on your second.
Correct.
There's actually a formula called an effective rate. So it looks like 7 and 13, but then you have to blend them together. And when you blend them together, then you get your true rate, right? So his true rate was higher than 7 because of the blending of the 13. Make sense? So with FHA loans, they don't call the MIP interest. but guess what? It is, because it doesn't even benefit them. Can you write off MIP?
I believe on primary you can. I don't think that you can on an investment.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if you're doing I'm not a tax professional, so it's good for a tax person, but when you're doing your taxes, you can still like claim the taxes you're paying, the insurance you're paying, that stuff. So it's interesting. We'll see. But so if I'm paying, and I've never seen one cheaper than $250 a month. If I have like a 4.5% and I got $250 a month, by the way, I don't know the math, so don't think I'm that smart up here. Like is your effective rate 4.5%? No, arguably it's probably in the sixes after you do all the math. So like that's how it can throw you off when you're starting to go after sub twos. That's why I say if it starts with a 5, it's probably not even a sub 2, maybe. Always a maybe, right? Depends. Like what we'll be wearing when we're in our 80s. Depends.
Depends.
A lot of people didn't get that one, but it's okay.
We'll get it in their 80s.
They sure will. So Matthew, I know we only have about 10 minutes left, and I want to make sure people can follow you. Where should they go and learn from you and check out your cool posts about your kids and whatnot?
Follow me on Instagram. That's probably the best place. And my Instagram handle is super easy. It's just at Matthew Potter Realtor. I'll go ahead and drop that in the chat here.
I just did it.
There we go. She just did it. So I would say follow me there. If you're a licensed agent, feel free to collaborate with me and Ingryd. We're both at Real Broker. We do weekly calls just talking about kind of the way that the market is, answer any questions, support for people that are needing it in the marketplace. Those are the two biggest places. You can request me on Facebook. I'm going to be honest. I think I'm tapped on friends there, but you can follow me and I interact with everybody there. I'm super easy to figure out which profile is mine on Facebook. I just updated my cover photo with my best AI work ever, and I love it. So I got that going on for me. And then one of the things that I was going to say, Ingryd, you had just touched on blended rate. I just wanted to talk about that real quick, if that's cool with you, as your buffering.
One second. I think Pace wanted me to tell you how much he loves you. Is that right? Is that what you said? Oh, Pace says he appreciates you. He loves your little bald head. And he said, thank you for doing all you do for the community.
Tell him I appreciate him as well. Absolutely.
Well, I added the bald head thing because I'd be giving you a hard time.
Hey, I was going to say your husband's got a bald head too, so So
you know that I'm right.
Exactly.
I love, a bald man. Yeah.
Well, nothing but love to my bald brother, Mark Hernandez. I got nothing but love for him.
The blended rate. Let's go there. And then I have a question about, we were talking about depends.
Yes.
And so something came into my brain about that. So please talk about your blend and then we'll talk depends.
So this is one of the things I want to this is probably the best nugget that I'm going to have for today. When you're looking at something and you had mentioned on this, MIP, who does it benefit? What does your blended rate end up being? Be careful when you're out there and you're looking at potential properties. Like you said, anything that starts with probably like a 5 right now probably isn't going to make sense in the long run. There might be a couple niche products, maybe it will, but as a whole, probably not. Here's one of the things to really pay attention to. Is it a teaser rate or is it a stabilized rate? And what I mean by that is, like I said, I'll hammer on new builds all damn day. Is it they got 3.99 from the builder and then it adjusts to 4.99 and then 5.99 for years 28 through 30? Because if so, all of a sudden something that might have looked pretty attractive on paper initially, by the time you get to the end, you're going to look at it and realize you're inheriting someone else's problem that will become your problem. It's not something you've solved their problem. You've now taken on a problem. And I'll tell you this, my boat stays afloat by not taking on other problems that are going to drown me. So that's the way that I always look at that. And I've had several people that are like, oh, dude, I found this property. It's cool. It's conventional. It's fixed 3.99. And I'm like, where is it? And they're like, oh, it's out here. And I'm like, you might want to check what your rate is, and whether or not that's just a fixed 30 year, or whether it was only bought down on, a 2-1, a 3-2-1, or just a 1-1. And more often than not, they come back and they're like, holy crap, dude, you're right. Like it's going to adjust to 5.99. This is something that doesn't make sense. There's no equity. Like we need to move it down the line with a short. So like I said, I just wanted to get that out there for everybody to look at when they're looking at a property, particularly over the last 3 years of build. That's going to be very prevalent.
Yeah. And then for the depends thing, it instigated a thing in my head because we've seen reverse mortgages come around. Actually, we spoke with an agent yesterday during the No One Left Behind challenge where they have a reverse mortgage, and they're trying to convince the seller, who is an older lady. She's now in assisted living, but she has full capacity. Mm-hmm. She is saying, no, I'm going to get better and I'm going to end up going home. By the way, once a senior is in assisted living, the likelihood of them going back home is almost non-existent. So it's important for us to make sure that we do everything we can to convey that to a senior. So Matthew, do you do reverse mortgage short sales?
Yes. It's a very specific process. Super specific. But we do them. I did say do. We do them. We complete them. It's effectively through 2 mortgage servicing companies. It's probably either CompuLink or PHH. But those are the 2. And I literally got hit up right before we got on this call from someone in my Facebook that was like, I need help with a reverse mortgage in Texas. Can you help? They can be done. They're very specific guidelines. But I will say sometimes they can be good opportunities if someone's looking for like a fix and flip. It can be a good opportunity because it's all based off of as is value. It's not and as is of the asset. So if it's in disrepair, they take all of that into account and deduct it off before they say, all right, this is the price we need.
Yeah. Matthew, do you have a website where you put all your short sale opportunities across nationwide, or do you just use like the local MLS? What's your go-to there?
Yeah, just local MLS. It's one of those things. It's the easiest thing for us because there's so many different compliance pieces with different regulations in different areas. Like Texas, you're not allowed to feed certain information out, as you know. So it's one of those things where it's like it's easier to just localize or use what is local that is already regulated rather than trying to reinvent the wheel on it. I'm not trying to reinvent it on that.
Yeah. I was just trying to figure, because I'm like, oh, you know what? We haven't talked about short sales, adding them into creativelisting.com. And a good portion of our audience in creativelisting.com, I said creativelisting.com, right?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I said creativelisting.com. Okay, cool. There's a lot of investors, there's a lot of opportunities there. And so I think what I just heard you say is that short sales are a great option for people who are in the investing world. But they have to be patient, right, Matthew?
Got to be patient. I will tell you this, the market is not patient right now. And what I mean by that is like retail buyers are so impatient right now. So if there's something where the bank is maybe going to let it go low enough where it'll make sense for a buyer, or, maybe an investor, it's a great opportunity for them. It really is. One of the things I always like to let everybody know this up front, because again, like I'm very by the book with the way that I do these. They will come with very specific guidelines of what you're allowed to do with the property, including you probably have to hold it a minimum of 30 days before you're allowed to transfer title in any way whatsoever.
Hey, he just fixed me, right? What did I say before? 90. I said 90. So I'm glad I'm teaching them to be even more strict. But what I heard you say is many are 30.
So many are 30. It's 30 no transfer. It's 31 to 90. You can't transfer for more than 120% of acquisition cost. So like if you bought it for 100K, you can't sell it for more than 120 in day 31 through 90. And then at day 91, you can sell it for any number you want. It won't matter. You can sell it for $300,000 on day 91.
Wow. Okay, so that you don't have to remember all the math. The safer thing is just wait for day 91.
Day 91, you're going to be able to do anything you want with the property at that point.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. What do we have any questions in the audience? Well, and you guys can't see this. I got like 200 people in front of me. Okay, what's up? And he has two questions. How long is earnest money deposit held while this process is happening? Yes, so I did a deal with Matthew. I think they held my money for a year.
No, I mean, I didn't. Title
Yeah,
did.
it wasn't Matthew. It was title. The title and escrow office. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So here's the way that works. Technically, it is different per jurisdiction and how their contracts are written. Here in Arizona, you don't have to deposit anything until the short sale agreement notice is delivered, which is effectively like, hey, we have bank approval, which would just be a normal closing period of like 30 days. So here in Arizona, it can be 30 days.
It was only like $1,000. I wasn't going to cry. Sorry. It's okay.
And then but in other jurisdictions like Georgia, Florida, they want it deposited before they'll do anything. So it really is case by case and state by state.
Yeah. Okay. And then second question, I'm going to reiterate after he asks. Go ahead.
Is this an ideal situation for a rent option to buy? So you've got something going in that first 90 days?
Is this an ideal situation for a what? To like rent it out?
Yeah, rent it out.
Lease it option. Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is you buy it as an investor short sell, right? And then you're like, could I rent this out for a lease option scenario? The answer is, it depends. Does the math make sense to do that? Will you be able to refinance that money or finance that money in such a way that you're able to rent it out? So that exit strategy is just all in the math. So maybe you have to, maybe it's a property where he has it listed for $200,000, but you have to buy it at $150,000 to make the rental number work. So that's the offer you would submit, because we do things by the numbers, not by our emotions, and we will want the math to math. So if that was your question. So cool. Anybody else? Any other question? Nothing burning, hunka burning question? No? Huh? Oh, they said they really wish you would have come here in person. They bring the kids and the dogs and everybody who you had to stay home with.
I can assure you, nobody wants that chaos. I have organized chaos at my house. Like I can assure you, my kids would be climbing all over the tables. My dogs would be. It would be nuts.
Yeah. All right, guys. So don't forget, go follow Matthew Potter. Oh, there's one more question on Instagram, Matthew Potter Realtor. One more question. What's up?
If you could circle back on why
If he,
VA loan isn't a good vehicle, in his opinion.
oh, we're gonna have to play rewind on that one.
Okay.
Yeah. So they wanted to know why. I think we cut it up pretty good in the discussion.
If you understood his point, I'll just talk to you later.
Oh yeah, we could do that. Sorry, this is a weird exchange. My bad, Matthew. They're just like, wait, can he reiterate why he thought the VA loan was not good? And I'm like, that was like a 10-minute breakdown, my brother. I will follow up with him afterwards. I'm going to send him my YouTube and say, here's the link.
Perfect.
Like and subscribe, every Wednesday, 1 to 2 p.m. Arizona time. We talk about this stuff. So very good. Well, Matthew, thank you so much for taking a little bit more than an hour out of your crazy family day that you get taking care of all those people, but you're also taking care of a lot of sellers out there. And I can truly say this. I'm so happy that we're friends. And that, you've been such an asset in my life and just all the give back that you provide. So thank you, Matthew.
I appreciate that. I feel the same way.
Right on. All right. Thanks, guys. And for all of you watching, don't forget, I was serious. Every Wednesday from from 1 to 2 p.m. Arizona time. We go live on here. We have experts like Matthew Potter who explain their level of expertise and how they do business. And we'll catch you guys here next Wednesday.